Hi, welcome. Today we look at a parable, the parable of the dishonest steward, from the book of Luke, chapter 16. We shall look at the meaning behind this parable. So now let us read. There was a rich man who had a steward, and charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his goods. He called him and said to him, "What is this that I hear about you? Turn in the account of your stewardship, for you can no longer be steward." And the steward said to himself, "What shall I do, since my master is taking the stewardship away from me? I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I have decided what to do, so that people may receive me into their houses when I'm put out of the stewardship." So summoned his master debtors one by one. He said to the first, "How much do you owe my master?" He said, 100 measures of oil. And he said to him, "Take your bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, "How much do you owe?" And he said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said to him, "Take your bill and write 80. The master commended the dishonest steward for his shrewdness. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous mammon, so that when it fails, they may receive you into the eternal habitations. He who is faithful in a very little is faithful also in much, and he who is dishonest in a very little is dishonest also in much. If then you have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will entrust to you the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in that which is another, who will give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two masters, for he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Again, Jesus speaks in parable, because the way of God is the design and the fulfillment. As a man going out to build a house, he made the design of the house, then he built the house according to the design. And when the house is completed, it's become the fulfillment of that design. Now the way of God is the same. So God has given us the earth. It's a physical dwelling place, and with everything in it, and it's just a design for God. When you're stepping back and back and back and look at everything, the earth for God is just a design. The fulfillment is heaven, eternal dwelling place for all of God's children, and is inexhaustible, and that's why it's the fulfillment dwellings, including all kind and all type of human beings there. And so now we have this parable of the dishonest steward, and Jesus has given us this parable because there is a spiritual lesson that we can learn from it. So the meaning behind this parable is the fulfillment of this parable. The parable is the design, the spiritual meaning, the spiritual lesson is the fulfillment. So let's look at this parable. This steward, he kind of knows, and he assesses himself, "Oh, I'm being fired. I want to do something about this situation. What shall I do? I can't dig. I'm ashamed to beg." But he knows what he can do. That is being a steward and using his own, the mean that he has right there and then. he did something about that. So from Bible studies, we learn that steward back then, the way they doing things is like this. For example, they are in charge of lending out to the people. Let's say if he lent out 20,000 to a person. So when he write the contract, he would write that that person owe 22,000 and has to pay back 22,000. So then in that contract, he's got 2,000 for himself. That's his own portion, $2,000. And so that is the way of the steward back then. And so from here we can see that he is using that his own portion, which is the 2,000 he have, to earn the favor, to earn the debtor, favor. And so he said to one guy, "Oh, how much do you owe?" And they said 100 measure of oil. So then he said, "Take your bill and quickly write 50." So actually the amount owed is only 50, but the other 50 belong to the steward. So now he will cut his own portion. He will not get any. He will let the debtor just pay that 50 only, and that means the debtor is happy because he's paying less, and so he got the favor of that guy. He got the favor from that guy. And the second guy, "How much do you owe?" He said 100 measure of wheat. Take your bill and write 80. So there's 20 measure that belong to the steward. Now the steward let go of that for the benefit of this debtor, and so he now earned another favor from this debtor. So he got favors. Basically, we are in charge of the possession of the earth here, and one person may have a lot of money, one person may have a lot of houses, one person may have skills, to talk, to preach, to be kind, to give service to the poor. We are all, having certain things physically in our life, and so we one day have to give account to God. And so we will have to be like this guy, what shall I do? What shall I do? Maybe I can do this and this, So we have to figure out what shall we do using our physical possession, using what we have that belong to us physically, and to win the spiritual favor for the spiritual habitation, so that we earn God favor, because God is in his heart very compassionate, in his heart very kind. So when we are giving alms, when we're giving of something, God feel touched, and he will give us favor, spiritual favor. And so the spiritual meaning behind this is we need to use whatever we have in our situation for the benefit of the spiritual habitation, for the benefit of the spiritual kingdom, the spiritual world, for the heaven. Using the meaning of the earth here, money, houses, talent, skill to talk, whatever, for the benefit of eternal dwelling place, heaven, the fulfillment. So basically the meaning behind this parable is like this, and that is the fulfillment of this parable. Thank you for joining me today.